my behaviors are being driven by all of these negative thoughts, all these negative ideas, many of which were operating unconsciously, but affecting so many of my relationships and outcomes. I wasn't even aware of it, but you know what? Yeah, I do say that all the time.
It's the spirit in mind. It's the spirit in mind. Keep the spirit in mind.
Welcome to the Spirit in Mind broadcast with your hosts, Bishop C. Guy Robinson and Dr. Jonathan Shepard, where we explore faith and mental health perspectives on current affairs. Let's get into today's discussion with the Spirit in Mind.
Hello, and welcome to Spirit and Mind, where we discuss affairs with faith and mental health perspectives. I'm Bishop Guy Robinson, and it is always such an honor to have this time to share with you and to share it with my colleague and co-host, Dr. Jonathan Shepard. Hello, Dr. Shepard.
Hey, Bishop, and hope you're doing well, sir.
Yes, all is well.
Good. And greetings to everyone out there in our podcast and who's following us and who's watching us. I am just really amazed, Bishop, when we go back and look at the analytics and how many people are following us through our short reels, through going back to YouTube and following us. We want to continue to grow our podcast with people going to the various platforms for podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or however you may access that. But I will say we are very thankful, and we're thankful for the people going back to watch and replaying the episodes. And so just know that our team is working hard to make sure that we continue to produce quality information for you all. So just want to say thank you and thank you.
Absolutely. And hey, if it's really helping and or blessing you, please tell somebody else so that they can join us and tune in. Tell them to go to Spirit in Mind Live and really connect and participate. And we love the feedback. We love the engagement. So thank you for your continued support of Spirit in Mind. You've caught us now where we've been talking for some time about an important question. It really sounds kind of interesting when you say the title again, Dr. Shepard, the gift of rejection. Hey, if you want to know what in the world does that mean, that's what we're here for. Hang on for a few moments because that's what we want to talk about today, the gift of rejection. We're continuing that important conversation because rejection is a part of our human experience. And so, hey, Dr. Shepard's going to kind of recap and go over some of the things we've already discussed, and then that'll segue us into today's content. Dr. Shepard.
Absolutely. And this has been an awesome series that we've gone through, really revealing what rejection tells us about you, tells us about yourselves, tells us about each other. So it's based off of the book, The Gift of Rejection. I do recommend that book. You can go and look it up. But in this series, I should say, we've been looking at how rejection tells and reveals various things about ourselves. And it's something when you have to think about how you have handled a experience or a moment of rejection, because we all have had them. Let's just be real. We all have had them, whether it come from family, whether it come from friends. And, even as you watch through these episodes, I'm not sure what time of year you may be watching this. If it could be during the Christmas time where you have to deal with family and friends who may have rejected you, dealing with lost loved ones who are no longer with you, and just feeling that emptiness and feeling like God may have forgotten you, or you may have been rejected by him because your loved one is no longer here for the holidays, or just whatever the situation you may find yourself in. But we all have experienced some form or way of rejection. And so we're looking to see, what do these things reveal about us? I'm going to go through real briefly, and Bishop will chime in as he will, as he seems fit. But number one, the principle that it reveals about us is that rejection will position you for purpose. So positioning you for your purpose. helping making sure that you're in alignment with what you are called to do. Number two, revealing people's roles in your destiny. And if you have not watched that particular episode, I guarantee that one was a showstopper, as they say. That really it helped me, and I want you to go back and watch that. Then number three, which we just did a few weeks ago, was on anchoring your identity. So number one, positioning you for purpose. Number two, revealing people's role in your destiny. Then number three was anchoring your identity. So those are some of the principles that we have covered over. Bishop, what would you like to add, if anything, in relation to what we've covered before we go into our next and last principle?
Just that one that you mentioned about the purposeful nature of rejection. That again, us, many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails, is what Proverbs 19:21 says. So sometimes we make plans and we're trying to move, or we pursue things, and divine purpose has a reason for even the no's in our lives, and that's such a powerful thing that I think has to stay with us. That sometimes only in hindsight do we appreciate the no's. Or the things that didn't work out, the job we didn't get, the person we didn't date, whatever that is, even that, it's kind of comedic, but I think I know, because I talk to people who say that, I saw them years later and I said, thank you, Lord, because, there is a plan and a purpose. And so that's important to our mindset, so that we don't internalize rejection in a way that causes us significant harm and impedes us from pursuing purpose. So you can really get lost in rejection, really get lost in ruminating and what if, and maybe if I had done this, and really get to beating ourselves up. But it's helpful to remember that God has a purpose and a plan for even the no's that he allows us to encounter. And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. And that's why we can talk to God about our experiences with rejection, knowing that, as the word says, we don't have a high priest who cannot be touched. So he's acquainted. For us, Isaiah 53, the suffering servant in Isaiah 53 is whom we identify with as Isaiah prophesying about the ministry of Christ. And what sticks out for me in Isaiah 53 is he says, he was despised and rejected of men. So even when we pray to God, what that means is that we're not praying to someone who cannot be touched by our infirmities. And he's familiar and acquainted with, and even models how to handle rejection, and even shows that there is resurrection after rejection, which is such a powerful metaphor for us who need to be resilient and come back from those experiences. So they just were a few of the thoughts that were still resonating with me from these discussions so far.
Yeah, and thank you for even using the word resonating your thoughts, Bishop, because that's where, as you were saying, that really hit me, because when you're dealing with rejection, you think about the rumination of how that stuff stays with you. It's so interesting. Literature says that we can have up to 70-some thousand thoughts per day. That's amazing. 70-some thousand thoughts per day. Somewhere in that neighborhood. I've heard a little less, I've heard a little bit more, between 60 to 80-some thousand. And what they also say is that 70% of those thoughts are negative. And again, so when you've experienced the rejection, the reason why we do what we do, spirit in mind, is because we address both, we address the issue from both avenues, because we want people to know that that you are able to break that cycle. Able to break that cycle of rumination of when you've experienced, whether it be a traumatic experience, whether it be rejection, a depressive episode, or whatever it may be. I want to just stress that, Bishop, that I really feel that is that we have to stress to make sure that people know that we're not just sharing our personal stories or giving practical application, whether it be through the spiritual lens or mental health lens. We want people to know that you can break these cycles. You know, we want people to know that you're able to, even though you're biologically may be prone to have these negative thoughts, mentally, emotionally, these negative thoughts that we are born with, and that 70% of them are negative. That, yes, even then, we still need to make sure that we are tapping in to the various principles that we're giving out to help you emotionally and mentally and spiritually. And so I just wanted to say that, Bishop. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's important because we do, and that's why intervention in relationships that are able to intervene, be it pastoral care, be it psychotherapeutic services, are so important because some of these thoughts might be narratives that aren't even like we aren't even aware of them.
Right.
Drive
Right.
our behaviors, and
Right.
especially if you had a real bad experience with rejection, and
Mhm.
somebody told you you weren't good enough. Well, that can
Mhm.
become a theme that kind of drives all of us. There's a negative thought, and then that can become what we call in critical thinking a hasty generalization. Where we just say, "I'm not good enough for anybody and everybody." You have one bad experience, but you kind of make that your theme that engages every other relationship. And so, but sometimes we aren't even aware of how that left
Mm.
planted some thoughts in our ideas. And sometimes the intervention brings it up in ways and helps us to see that, wow, my behaviors are being driven by all of these negative thoughts, all these negative ideas, many of which were operating unconsciously, but
Mm.
affecting so many of my relationships and outcomes. I wasn't even aware of it, but you know what? Yeah, I do say that all the time.
Mhm.
Nobody likes me. I don't fit in, all those
Mhm.
kind of things. And then we kind of create self-fulfilling prophecies, if you will,
Yes.
because when that's our theme from that rejection moment, then we encounter other relationships anticipating that. Then we act out on those, and then it kind of becomes what we say. So that's why this is so important to be discussing, to be aware of those things. Yeah, yeah, that's a lot of thoughts, and that's a
Yeah.
percentage of negativity. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. If I'm not the math major here, but you can imagine 70% of 7,000. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, yeah,
That really is. So, with and, as we're now gearing up for our last principle, I mentioned we have three. We have four. We have the fourth and last one, which is drawing closer to God. What rejection should reveal about you and should help to push you towards is a closer relationship or drawing you closer to God. And I really like the way in which we're ending out on this spirit in mind. And, there's just some questions, and I'm going to put them out there for you. And Bishop and I, we will answer these questions also for ourselves. But just some starter questions, some discussion questions. Number one, has rejection ever left you in a place of disarray where you felt like no place you could lay your head? Have you ever felt like that? And Bishop, I'll be honest with you, as I was reading and even formulating that question, it made me think about Jesus and how when he was born and how he was rejected in so many different places. Mary and Joseph were rejected, and he had no place to lay his head. Uh, I know I'm stretching a little bit there, but I'll be honest with you, it did. It made me think about that real quickly as I was meditating. That rejection will leave you in a place where, man, you feel empty, where you feel like there is no place where you can go, and a lot of that has to do with the rumination and some of these cycles that we find ourselves in. You just described it, Bishop, saying no one likes me, no one cares for me. when you walk into a room, you think that everybody is looking at you. Um, Even when you go in and you may have you spent time dressing up and you really took time to fix yourself up, men and women, and you walk in, you still don't even feel worthy of walking in the room or think that what you have on or what you're presenting at that time is not good enough. Um, that that's a hard place to be at when you feel that in your place of despair and you feel like everything is in disarray. Um, yeah, that's Bishop. I don't know if you want to tackle that right here. Um, that's a bad place to find yourself in. Um, yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. If we're using some of the experiences of the gospel narrative in Jesus in this discussion, then that is even a very profound sense of rejection,
mhm,
because it's not just because it is in essence. This is when Isaiah says he was acquainted with grief, a man of sorrows, despised and rejected. So this kind of rejection, if we're talking about that and applying it to the life of Jesus, one of the most profound forms of rejection is the rejection of your authentic identity.
mm,
Because it's one thing to have an idea proposed and rejected. You're in a board meeting and you present an idea, or you're in a group and social setting and you present a thought and your idea is rejected. But your identity being rejected because people don't like or approve of who you are or who you are becoming is a whole another level, if you will, of experiencing rejection. And we see that
and we
in
do, yeah.
with the scriptures. Jesus goes to be baptized. John the Baptist says, "Behold the Lamb of God." Okay, boom, identity. Then he comes up from the water, and a voice from heaven, the voice of the Father, if you will, says, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased." It's probably not coincidental that right after that, the first temptation of the wilderness is, if you are who you say you are.
You are.
Really, a temptation dealing with identity,
Wow.
the questioning of, preparing for the rejection of that identity. To go into the synagogue and read and say, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me," and they say, "Isn't this the carpenter's kid?" Again, it's a rejection of who I am becoming. And so that's why that ability to tap into and stand firm on what the Lord said, if we're going spiritually, this sense of identity that God gave me at baptism has to carry me through the experiences that are contrary. And so that's why it's so important to have this, as we're talking about drawing closer to God, to have this sense of connection with God that makes it clear that I am who God says I
Mhm.
am. And so that we can hold on to that when it is being questioned or challenged by people who for whom our identity is their inconvenience.
Wow.
The spirit in mind.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at Spirit in Mind, and we're also on Instagram at Spirit in Mind Live. Join us next time for a new episode of Spirit in Mind.